You got Maga Mac, John McMullen, Jordan McDonald here with you on Birds 365. We're going to get a behind-the-scenes look at the Eagles' opponent this weekend. That would be in New England against the Patriots. Guy who covers them day in, day out for iHeartRadio up there in Boston, WBZ, and host of The Gambler. My buddy Adam Kaufman joins us here on Birds 365. What do you say, AK?
Well, I think you're muted, Adam. There we go.
I got it. I'm fixed.
There we go.
I was screaming with exuberance that football.
Are they screaming with exuberance in the Boston area about this Patriots team, Adam?
No. I mean, not to the degree that we used to back in the day for 2 decades with Tom Brady under center, and you took the, even just getting to the AFC Championship game is a foregone conclusion. It was, Super Bowl bust basically every single year. Although what I will say is that I do think people are sleeping on the Patriots to this degree. They have the potential to be a playoff team. They could sneak in as a wild card team. They are not necessarily going to be the, dead last in the AFC East as everyone would presume them to be on paper, because I just think that they've improved in some key areas. Most notably, they actually have an offensive coordinator running the offense. Imagine that. So I think
That's a good way.
I know. I think we're going to see some strides for Mac Jones under Bill O'Brien. I think he's got some, decent pieces around him. Not great, but decent pieces. And I just think that, like DraftKings is as low as I've seen the over-under for this team, the win total of 6.5. That to me is just utterly
I'm going over. I'm going
disrespectful.
over.
Okay.
Without a doubt. I mean, you have to go over 6.5. Like Bill Belichick coached a Cam Newton-led team to 7 wins. You're going to tell me this team can't win 7?
Well, no, Adam, real quick before you jump in, Jody, because I always thought, and I was woefully wrong on this, when the Eagles won Super Bowl 52 over the Patriots, obviously, I'm like, all right, we're in this town. Lifetime dispensation for Doug Peterson. I was wrong. It took 3 years, and he's out of town. Now, Bill Belichick, I look at that from the outside, I'm like, all right, this guy can do whatever he wants. I don't give a rat's ass. Where are the Patriots fans when it comes to Bill Belichick? Is there that sort of groundswell of he can't win without Tom Brady? This is the greatest coach of all time. I opened the show saying this. Where are Patriots fans with Bill Belichick?
So, I mean, I couldn't give you percentages, but I will tell you there's certainly still a segment of Patriots fans, and it's not small, that is, hashtag in Bill we trust. That's something that's been said around here for a long time. Bill can do no wrong kind of thing. Even when he does, Bill can do no wrong. But then there are absolutely people that, if you will, chose Tom Brady in the divorce. And so when those two went their separate ways, especially when Brady won right away in Tampa and had 2 very productive seasons for that club, there are people that just are very down on Bill Belichick, ready to move on. They look at it, they say he's a 500 coach without Tom Brady. He hasn't won a playoff game since Brady left. They've only been to the playoffs one time. Bill, the GM, year after year is screwing Bill, the head coach, and they're ready for a change. And so I would say neither side is unanimous by any stretch, but both are pretty vocal. And I think in part because you have at owners meetings every single offseason these kind of subtle suggestive digs from owner Robert Kraft saying that, I'm tired of this. I expect us to win. And people are like, I don't subscribe to the belief that Bill Belichick is on the hot seat per se, but there's only so much longer what has been happening for the last few years can continue before Kraft would feel compelled to make a change.
No, thank you for going there. Exactly the question I was going to ask. The one Patriot fan who counts more than anybody else, Mr. Kraft, what does he think? And you're saying he's dropping hints. He's not dropping bombs, but he's dropping hints, which makes this a very intriguing season for the Patriots. Judging from afar, you're there, we're not, but I'm checking the secondary ticket market, and the price for this game is still outrageously high. And I make that because not of the groundswell of we're going back to the Super Bowl of Patriot fans, but Yeah, TB12 is coming back, and we're going to honor him and the like. So the Patriots are not giving up. The fans are not giving up their tickets. Those that are selling them for an outrageous markup. What's it going to be like in the stadium when the game kicks off on Sunday, on Brady Day?
To your point, it's outrageous because people are hoping that Brady comes out at halftime and is under center, agrees to a contract after Mac Jones struggles or something like that. So, yeah, I mean, this is going to be one of what Kraft has, kind of promised will be many Brady-like celebrations taking part or taking place over the course of the year. So I think that it's I personally, not that my opinion matters, I wouldn't have done it. I don't like the idea of honoring him opening weekend for a 4:25 game when you're hosting the defending NFC champs. You're not even, national prime time. You're underdogs, obviously. I think they're just trying to capitalize on hey, Brady retired. We're starting this thing right away. We've got him first. He played in a couple of different places, but he's forever a Patriot. He's going to be here sitting right next to Kraft in the owner's box opening day. It's just, I don't know, if you're going to do it, and obviously you're going to do it, wouldn't you rather do it when you're the Monday night game or the Sunday night game? All eyes on you, and all the broadcast crews can be fixated, and we can be making over-under jokes about number of times that Kraft and Brady are shown together and all of that. Instead, it's, it just feels like it's going to kind of blend into week one, like you're watching Red Zone or something like that. And I don't know. It's a weird decision, but again, it's also not a time that you need to jack up the prices and get everyone all extra amped. You do that for a Texans game mid-season, right? It's the Eagles. It's opening weekend. Like, they're going to sell out. People are going to be there anyway. You don't need Brady to go over the top with that.
Yeah, and he probably want a homecoming game too. You probably want to win the game, so it'd be better to wait for the Texans, so-called college homecoming environments. But on the field, Adam, what do you like about this team? What do you dislike? What do you say? All right, this team's really good here, and they got some issues here.
So, well, they definitely have some issues on the offensive line and keeping Mac Jones safe and, providing a steady blocking force in the run game from Andre Stevenson, Ezekiel Elliott, who's here as well now. It's going to be a little extra challenging. I still think Stevenson's going to have himself a very good year, and I think Elliott is going to be more than a complimentary piece. I think his addition has been a little bit unsung to this point. But as far as I'm concerned about the defense. I just think that, even last year when they were top 5 or in DVOA, and they're just a defense that when I say historically, I mean in recent years, measures up statistically, but when push comes to shove on the field, they don't generally get the job done, especially against the elite teams and elite quarterbacks. I mean, they've been torched all over the place by teams like the Buffalo Bills and Josh Allen.
Sounds familiar. That's what Eagles fans say about their defense.
Yeah, I mean, mobile quarterbacks get them, it feels like every time out, which is obviously a concern with Jalen Hurts coming in for week 1. So I think that it's, as we like to say sometimes, like the saying paper champs, I think that defense is kind of resembles that, statistically really good, but not always really good in actuality to the eye test on the field. I will say the offense I'm encouraged by. I think that Mac Jones, again, is going to be much closer to what he was as a rookie when he was a Pro Bowler, at least de facto Pro Bowler after enough guys said no, as compared to what he was last year when he was terrible and benched for Bailey Zappi. And again, you now have an offensive coordinator running the offense as opposed to a defensive coach and a special teams coach running the offense. I'd feel a lot better if they had actually gone out and signed DeAndre Hopkins, been willing to pay him, and had a legitimate number 1 wide receiver. I don't think they have that. Juju Smith-Schuster is not going to scare anybody, and some of the complementary pieces around him are, whether it's Devontae Parker or Kendrick Bourne or, they're just like a bunch of rookies. Tyquan Thornton when he's healthy. Like these are not those names that you're chasing in your fantasy drafts. I do think the tight ends are going to be very good. I think Hunter Henry is getting a bit undervalued, and I think Mike Gesicki, if healthy, is going to do well here. So I think the offense has pieces, but again, we're talking about a team that's good enough to probably at its ceiling win 10, 11 games and be a wild card team.
Give me a read
we're
on
not talking about a contender.
Give me a read on one of your players, because I thought he was a guy that the Eagles might have taken a flyer on where he was picked in the draft. They didn't address wide receiver at all in this past year's draft. And I was surprised that Kayshon Boutte dropped down to the 6th round. I thought he was an early day 3 pick, and he's still sitting there in the 6th, and the Patriots picked him up. I liked him at LSU. I thought he was a nice little player who got better over time down there on the Bayou. Did he show anything in preseason? I know he made the team. I got to do that first when you're a 6th round pick, but has he got a chance to contribute at all here week 1? What he show in preseason?
So I don't know about week 1, but yeah, Boutte, Pop Douglas, another rookie, Demario Douglas. These two guys have been immensely popular in camp and preseason among fans, among the local media, who are down there on a daily basis covering training camp. These are guys that you are hearing about on a regular basis, especially, again, I think with the lack of depth at the wide receiver positions, why they're carrying as many as they are going into the season, including some of these rookies. Now, it's important to remember, if like Patriots fans will remind you of this all the time, this is not a position that historically Bill Belichick has drafted well at by any stretch.
That's fair.
Like Julian Edelman was a 6th, 7th round or whatever. He wasn't this top tier talent. Now he grew into as I would say, a borderline Hall of Famer, a very impressive player. But obviously, they've not. Anytime they've had an opportunity to draft really well at the wide receiver position, it seems like they've, no pun intended, dropped the ball at that. You think back a couple of years ago to passing on the likes of DK Metcalf and Deebo Samuel and all of these guys that came after them, taking the what's his name that's bouncing around with the Bears now, whose name it is slipping me because he made that little an impression here. So Douglas.
Harry.
What's that? Sorry,
N'Keal Harry.
N'Keal Harry. Thank you very much.
Yeah, N'Keal Harry.
And thank you, and also how dare you for putting that name back in my head, because now it's going to be there for the rest of the day. Boutte made an impression. Absolutely, Douglas made an impression. We'll see if any of these guys can do it when it counts.
A name in my head, because he's here, and he was there, is Matt Patricia, Adam. So you mentioned him a little bit when you're talking about the offensive coordinator, who technically, I don't know what Matt's title was there. He wasn't the offensive coordinator, but he was calling the plays, which was weird. Right. I think they called him the offensive line coach, but you would know better than me. What the hell went on there, and why the divorce? I mean, obviously Bill values Matt because I don't know what he's doing here. So it's interesting, the disconnect. I don't know anything about Matt Patricia. What went on?
So I've been very careful to refer to Patricia the way I have, because, I think that Eagles fans should be happy, if not excited, that he's there. You shouldn't look at Patricia for what he did last year, nor should you look at him for his tenure with the Lions as head coach. You should look at him for what made him so successful in the years in New England that he was, because that's why he's there with you now, which is to play a role in running the defense. That's his specialty. That's what he excels at. He is a very, very good defensive coach. He is an elite mind, NFL, football mind. He's a rocket scientist, and literally, for Christ's sake. So he's a very smart guy. It's just, Bill Belichick put him in a position to fail. Belichick looked at it, and Belichick, reveres Matt Patricia. He is a friend, and Belichick, if you look back through the years, he has never hesitated to bring his buddies back in to have a role on that team. Two of his sons are on the coaching staff, and I'm not even saying that's necessarily nepotism, because they seem to have done well, but it's obviously it screams that, whether or not it is, you know what I mean? And that's existed with McDaniels, with O'Brien, with Patricia, with Judge, with, so many guys over the years that have left and come back, pretty much everybody other than Eric Mangini, who, obviously told on him for Spygate. So there are, I just think with last year, Bill in a very, it's fascinating because he's such a brilliant coach, as we have acknowledged, but I think he kind of looked at it in a somewhat arrogant way and said, football, football, you know defense, offense, special. Like if you can do one thing, you can do all of it if you're put in the right position with the right people around you. And it's like coaching up a coach, the way we talk about coaching up players. I think he looked at Matt Patricia as, yeah, he can do it. Why couldn't he do it? I'm going to show you he can do it, and I'm going to look great for it. And instead, it went the other way. It was a disaster from day one. Everyone knew in training camp it was going to be a disaster, and it was arguably worse.
All right. We have some concerns here in Philadelphia about the kicking game. The fact that they don't have a punter on the roster right now would be example number one. They will by the time Sunday rolls around. But we're confident in the captain of the special teams, Jake Elliott, at kicker. The Patriots going with a rookie as kicker, a drafted rookie, so they really love the kid from Maryland that they took. But they traded Nick Folk, who's a good, solid NFL kicker. Bunch of teams wish they had Nick Folk right now. And they did get a draft pick by trading him this week. Is that another area where Coach Belichick will be questioned if this guy misses a big field goal come Sunday?
So if I'm glad you couched it that way. If he comes in and stinks or has some initial few week growing pains, absolutely it'll be second guessed, because Nick Folk was incredibly reliable in his time in New England. I mean, he was. Yep. It's kind of amazing what they've been able to do at the kicker position in the entire tenure of Bill Belichick. Yes, there have been a couple of game here, game there exceptions, but generally speaking, they've had 3 kickers ever. It's gone from Vinatieri to Gostkowski to Folk, and all 3 very reliable. Gostkowski toward the end a little bit less so, which is why he was gone. But Nick Folk, the reason that I was surprised that they moved on from him, and it wasn't a total shock, because we've seen this from Bill when it comes to special teams, especially at the punter position. They'll have a guy that he'll be like a Pro Bowler, and you'll think that, well, that position's figured out, and then he'll draft a guy and cut the established guy and move on to the cheaper guy. And again, whether it's specifically about saving money or whether he just believes that's a position you should turn over every few years, honestly, I'm not sure. But Folk was again, he was just a sure thing. I mean, he was arguably their best player last year. So I was surprised to see them move on. Hopefully it works out, because we know how important the kicking game is, especially when, coming down to the final few minutes and you need a big kick. You don't want a guy who's going to be afraid of the moment. Folks pushing 40 years old, guy's been around forever and still getting the job done well. So I think that he'll continue to thrive for at least another year or two, and the Patriots are on to their 4th guy.
All right. Since Jody went there, Adam, I'm going to continue, because special teams on paper looks like the one issue for the Eagles. Everything besides Jake Elliott, who's a heck of a place kicker. But one, I have to ask you about the punter in New England, because they have a rookie there, Bryce Behringer. Is he left-footed? That's number one, because I always think about Bill Belichick and left-footed punters. He's got this mentality that the ball comes off the foot weird, and he gets 1 or 2 turnovers a year. That's always been. So that's number one, because the Eagles don't have a punt returner. So could this be an issue? Are the Patriots still good on special teams? I love Marcus Jones.
Yeah, Marcus Jones absolutely is a good talent. As far as the right foot, left foot, honestly, I just don't recall. You're right about the left-footed punters and Bill Belichick's kind of affection for them, and I could look it up quick while we're talking if you'd like. But the as far as sort of the impression this kid has made in camp, it's funny. There was about a week stretch where you're seeing beat writers coming out of camp just infatuated, legitimately looking forward to opportunities, at least in preseason games, maybe not so much now when these games matter, but in preseason games, looking forward to the Patriots having to fail on offense and punt the ball away, because this kid was just such a spectacle. I mean, literally like booming it, never mind 60 plus yards, but the height of these punts was something that was getting a lot of people's attention in Foxborough. It was like this guy's going to hit it as high as he is far. I mean, like, get your popcorn ready. This is not the bathroom break when the Patriots are punting the ball away. This is the showstopper right here. So I think that some of that is going to dial back in the regular season because, you know, we're going to be sitting there too busy being critical of the offense if they're punting every time. But yeah, it's this kid is getting some attention going into the season.
All right, Adam. Some guys, who was it who you've quoted a couple times now on the show here, John, from ESPN? Which of their football analysts?
Dan Orlovsky.
Orlovsky is prognosticating that the Patriots will outdo the averages in the National Football League when it comes to run-pass ratio. The league is 55-45, whatever the number is, but the Patriots are going to be heavier than that, more like 60-40 or even maybe a tick or two up from that. How much do you think there is to that? They've got Ramondre Stevenson, they got Ezekiel Elliott. They don't have a ton of talent on the outside. If they can run the football effectively, will they try and take the air out of the football and shorten the game by running maybe more than anybody else in the National Football League?
Well, I definitely wouldn't say more than anybody else. I don't think you're going to see this Patriots team rank in the top 5 in rushing this season. But will
I'm talking about percentage of plays, not necessarily the effectiveness thereof, but the percentage of run to pass.
I guess what I would say to that is, to a certain degree, especially under someone like Bill Belichick, that kind of goes hand in hand, right? Like if you're doing something and you're not successful at it, you're going to try something else. I think some of those teams that have nothing else, have no choice but to run the ball because they don't trust their quarterback to be any more than a game manager at best. Then that's just kind of the way that you have to be. Or if you're a team that, like the Bears, that you can be just as successful when you have the quarterback running the ball as opposed to passing the ball, then yeah, you're going to be run heavy. Like no one's going to confuse Mac Jones for someone who is fleet foot, maybe a little bit more so than that predecessor that's going to be in attendance, Tom Brady. But he is not a guy who's regularly going to be scrambling and picking up yards on the ground and rushing for a half dozen scores, even like Cam Newton did when he was here in that one year. So I think that, they're going to run the ball at least out of the gate a fair amount, so long as they get the protection from the offensive line to, they get the room to run, and Stevenson and Elliott can complement each other and be healthy. But at some point in time, guys do wear down. Let's not forget what happened at the end of last year. There were a couple of games the Patriots absolutely could have won if not for the fact that Ramondre Stevenson, I'm not putting the losses on Stevenson, but he was your most dynamic weapon. He was the guy that you turned to if you needed to play him and Jacoby Myers anyway to move the chains. And Stevenson was visibly worn down. I think that was, a large part of the motivation to go out and get not just another back, another veteran back, like an Elliott. Fournette was here. I think they kicked the tires on Dalvin Cook, Darrell Henderson. There are a couple other guys that came in as well. And I think Elliott was a good choice. I think that, there'll be not quite a 1-2 punch. I think that Stevenson is still going to have the lion's share of the load. And you might see Elliott a little bit more active in what we call around here that James White role, that pass catching back, on third down. But I still think that Mac Jones, despite the lack of a true number one, as we talked about before, I think they're going to pass the ball a fair amount. So I wouldn't say it'll be over the top as far as the disparity.
At Adam M. Kaufman, make sure you follow Adam on X, no longer Twitter, but you can go to twitter.com as well. iHeartRadio in Boston does a tremendous job up there. Last one for me, Adam, is if the Patriots win this game, give me the path. How do they win this game? How can they win this game?
God. I think if the Patriots win this game, it's going to be a credit to the emotion in the building. It's kind of a lame answer, but I think that,
I agree with you.
Three for three.
Yeah.
I mean, Tom Brady has a knack of obviously getting people excited. Don't be surprised either if it's not just Brady. Like, I don't know, maybe Edelman's in attendance, maybe Gronkowski's in attendance, maybe they, you know, maybe it just gets that crazy to kind of rev it up, or maybe they wouldn't do that to pull any attention away from Tom. I don't know, but the point is, I think that place is just going to be absolutely amped, and if they can get an early score and go ahead, you know, I think there's going to be a little extra oomph, exuberance, confidence, whatever in the building. And sometimes in the NFL, that's all it takes. You know, do I think the Patriots are going to, you know, blow out the Eagles? By no means. Do I think they'll get blown out? I really don't. I think it's going to be a close game. I do think it's a winnable game for New England, but you know, if you force me to bet on it, I would probably take the Eagles with the points.
Yeah, see, that's where I was going. I was going to say I need to talk to Adam Kaufman, the gambler. Opened at 3.5, has ticked up to 4. And you say, oh, that's only a half point. But it's kind of a key half point. I know you understand when I say that. That's a key half point to move between 3.5 and 4. Adam Kaufman, the gambler, is going to take the Eagles and give the 4 points, right?
Yeah, I mean, 4 is, let's not forget, I do believe the Patriots are better, absolutely better than they were last year. But they're still not elite. And you're facing the cream of the crop, or one of them anyway, in not only the NFC, but the entire NFL. Team that was just in the Super Bowl and returned all of its important people. So I think, at least, you know, in terms of the skill players anyway. So I think that, you know, 4 even on the road probably isn't a whole lot to ask of the Eagles.
All right. Follow him on X. John always says X.
I'm going to keep calling it Twitter, guys.
Yeah, good on you. Don't be dictated
to
to by the guy who owns it. He got enough money. You know you can do with his money. Adam M. Kaufman. That's with the M in the middle. You can catch him on iHeartRadio, WBZ up in Boston when you're in the area. Thank you very much for jumping in with us. Enjoyed the game on Sunday. We'll talk to you down the road, bud.
Look forward to it, fellas.
Thanks, Adam.
Adam Kaufman from WBZ in Boston giving us the Patriot perspective for the big matchup coming up on Sunday. All right, he's McMullen. I'm McDonald. Mac and Mac Birds 365. We will come back. We will put a bow on the show. Stay with us.